Hey guys, so today we're going to move on to Cluster 6, Day 4, Part 2 notes. If you remember in the previous lesson, we talked about Part 1, which was a power to a power rule, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to do that first half, which is going to be Part 2 for today, okay? So before we get into the negative exponent rule, which is what today's lesson is on, we are going to talk about the zero exponent rule and basically review. Okay, so remember the zero power rule basically says anything to the power of zero equals one. So for example, 16 to the power of zero is one. You know, the three can be brought down, and then 8 to the power of zero is just one. So 3 times 1 is 3. Okay. Here, 5 times negative 6 to the power of 0, we know that negative 6 to the power of 0 is just 1. And because we're multiplying it by 5, we're really just saying 5 times 1, which is 5. And then here, anything to the power of 0 is just 1. Okay. So it's just a quick review about the zero power exponent. On today's IXL, you will not have to worry about that. The only thing you're going to be doing with today's IXL is talking about the negative exponent rule. So I went ahead and wrote this out. So basically, the negative exponent rule basically says that if you have an exponent that's negative, then to be able to convert it into a positive exponent, you bring it down a fraction like this. So you see we have a to the power of negative n, and to convert that negative n into a positive n, all we have to do is bring that downstairs underneath the fraction symbol. And so that is how we convert that negative exponent to a positive exponent. The other alternative is, what if you have a negative exponent at the bottom of a fraction? Well, all you have to do is bring it back upstairs so it can become a positive. So basically, this goes downstairs if we have a negative exponent like this. But if we have a negative exponent already at the bottom of a fraction, the rule says that we can just bring it back upstairs so it can convert into a positive exponent, okay? If you're still confused, let's do a couple problems and you will see how easy this is, okay? So the rules, the directions state, rewrite without negative exponents, simplify. So let's start with number one. We have 16 to the power of negative 3. Well, this has a negative exponent, so to be able to convert that negative exponent, I have to take this whole thing and put it underneath a fraction. At the top I have a 1, and at the bottom I will have this, except the exponent will convert into a positive exponent. So when you move this whole thing downstairs underneath a fraction, it becomes positive, that exponent, okay? And there you go. You have simplified this so you won't have any negative exponents, okay? Let's move on to number 2. I have a negative exponent, 4 to the power of negative 2, so I need to convert that negative 2 into a positive 2. So I'm going to take this whole thing and bring it downstairs. So we get 1 over 4 to the power of 2. You see, I brought it downstairs. Number 3, we have this, which is 3 to the power of 3. To convert that into a positive exponent, I'm going to bring the whole thing downstairs underneath of one fraction symbol, and that will become 3 to the power of 3. As soon as I bring that downstairs, the negative 3, that is an exponent, will become a positive 3. Okay? Number 4, I have a to the power of negative 4, so I'm going to take this whole thing and bring it downstairs underneath one fraction, okay, or a fraction with a 1 at the top. And so when I move that downstairs, automatically the negative 4 becomes a positive 4 exponent. And there you go. You have rewrote your answer or your problem without a negative exponent. And remember, this is just one of those unspoken rules. We just don't like having negative exponents, okay? So that's why it's important that anytime you end up with a negative exponent, you need to convert it into a positive exponent, and this is how you do that. Now, if you notice, our examples have been exactly like the first part of the rule. We get something that looks like this, and then we convert it by bringing it downstairs underneath the fraction. You see, every single example that we've done basically follows this example. Now, the next two that we're going to do will follow this example. Now, if you notice, I have 1 over 2 to the power of negative 5. I have a negative exponent at the bottom of the fraction, which is known as the denominator. Well, I need to change that negative 5 into a positive 5. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and bring it back upstairs. When I do that, it automatically becomes 2 to the power of positive 5. Okay? And the reason that we don't do the fraction symbol is because it goes away. We could say, over 1 because there was nothing left underneath. But anything divided by 1 is just that same thing. So it's just easier to leave it as 2 to the power of 5. Okay? Number 6, I have a fraction, and if you notice at the bottom of that fraction, I have a negative exponent. So I need to convert that into a positive exponent. So I'm going to bring this thing back upstairs. I'm going to bring the 4 to the negative 3 upstairs, and by doing that, it becomes 4 to the power of 3. And there's your answer. Okay? And if you notice, it's basically like a cycle. Okay? If you bring that back upstairs, it becomes, positive, but if you decide to bring it back downstairs, it becomes negative. So depending on what you have, you can go back upstairs, downstairs, and it just converts that exponent from a positive to a negative and vice versa, okay? And the last two that we're going to do will be number 9 and number 10. So actually, we're just going to go ahead and do number 10, okay? So number 10, we have negative 7 to the power of negative 2. So this is telling me that I need to take this whole thing and send it downstairs because I have an exponent of negative 2. So when I do that, it becomes 1 over negative 7, and you want to keep those parentheses around the negative 7 to the power of 2, because when I brought that whole thing downstairs, that negative 2 exponent became a positive 2. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward as long as you understand the rule. Okay, if you have a negative exponent, you bring it downstairs below a fraction. But if you already have a fraction and you have a negative exponent, just bring it back upstairs to convert it into a positive exponent. Okay, so of course, if you have any questions, let me know. You can send me a Remind app, text me, or send me an email. Okay.